heard the story of the 300 Spartans. Some say they took on 1,000,000 Persians, some say 500,000. There are some rare cases when the truth is even stranger than fiction. This is one such case. This story takes us back over 2,000 years to 480 BC, Greece. Most of you would have seen 300, where brave Leonidas marches his 300 elite warriors all the way from Sparta in the very south of Greece to Thermopylae in the north. Anyone paying close attention to the film would have noticed Leonidas picked up a few additional troops on the way. These stragglers weren't Spartans, but mercenaries. So, contrary to popular belief, there were more than 300 Greeks fighting at Thermopylae, but there were only 300 Spartans. Spartan fans can rejoice. They're still as cool as we thought, but they did have little help. This help came from other Greeks, Helots, Thebans, and Thespians, who were in fact all rivals to the Spartans. The only people the Greeks of those times hated more than the Persians were each other. But anyway, that's a story for another time. What is relevant to our story today is the reason that 300 Spartans marched north to confront an army of at least 100,000. And that is the fact that the Persians had a plan to wipe Greece off the map. Yes, we're not exaggerating. King Darius of Persia had declared all-out war on Greece in 492 BC. He wanted it all for himself, and he would have gotten it if it wasn't for two brave city-states, Athens and Sparta. Persia had been trying to subjugate Greece for decades up until this point, and just prior to 492, King Darius sent ambassadors to all major players in Greece demanding they accept him as the king, and they all said yes, except Sparta and Athens. You know, people always complain and debate the accuracy of 300, but there's one scene that almost no one would expect to be historically accurate. Yes, this scene happened in real life. Okay, or maybe not the guy getting kicked into a bottomless well, but Sparta and Athens both did the unthinkable. Executed the diplomats the Persians sent. Even today, diplomatic immunity exists, and it did in those days too. But the fierce Athenians and savage Spartans gave absolutely no fucks. They both executed them, causing the biggest war Greece had ever seen. Anyway, back to Thermopylae. Athens and Sparta hated each other due to numerous wars and rivalries. Both wanted to be the top dogs in Greece. When they found out a horde of Persians were coming to enslave their families and erase their civilization off the map, they decided to work together. You're probably thinking, wait, there were no Athenians at Thermopylae, were there? Nope. They had arguably a harder battle to fight. The Persians didn't only invade Greece through Thermopylae. This narrow pass was the only way for an army to enter Greece. So, Leonidas and his men had to hold it. He's often praised as a military genius because of the sheer odds that he faced, but as far as warfare comes, it wasn't anything spectacular really. It's always easier to fight if you're defending, and the narrow road of Thermopylae meant only a handful of Persians could enter at a time. So, although they were severely outnumbered, they were fighting on home turf, had the defensive position, picked the battlefield, and the Persians' advantage of numbers were neutralized. So although it was a great example of the warrior spirit in defying all odds, we'd argue that in some ways, they actually had the advantage. The Athenians, on the other hand, had the real job. As well as the biggest land army ever amassed up until that point in history, the Persians also launched one of the biggest naval assaults on Greece. So, two invasions. The Spartans took the land and the Greeks fought the Persians off at sea. The only way to save Greece was for both battles to be won. If either side failed, then the other would be overrun. Thermopylae was the only way to enter Greece through land, but if the Persians took the sea, then they could send their armies in by boat. As only the Spartans and Athenians were fighting the battle, Greece would surely be overrun. Both armies knew it was a shot in the dark, that Greece was almost definitely over. Everyone thought it was over, so much so that the entire city of Athens evacuated. Greek civilization was in its darkest hour. It was surely going to become another Persian territory. After 7 long days at Thermopylae Pass, with 2 days of intense battle, the 300 Spartans, packed with 600 Greek mercenaries, were winning. They had suffered losses and were extremely fatigued. but they knew they had to defend the pass, or everything they'd ever known was lost. And they almost did it, if it wasn't for a local resident named Athenians. He's the guy who led the Persian army to the only other path around Thermopylae. Leonidas was aware of this and stationed a few troops there. Although his plans centered around the Persians not discovering the path, it was small and unlikely. On the seventh day, victory seemed certain for the Spartans. Whether Aphelios was paid, promised titles and riches, or just loved Persia, nobody knows. But he made the fatal decision to betray his homeland, his people, and his honor as a Greek. He led King Xerxes, now the king of Persia, after his father Darius, who had initiated the invasion, had died. Xerxes' path to victory was almost certain. He had the key to defeat the Spartans and marched straight into an undefended Greece. Brave Leonidas was informed of the approaching Persians. He knew his small army would be annihilated. He could have retreated, but it wouldn't have mattered in the end. He chose to send his mercenaries away. Him, the 300 Spartans, and 700 brave Thespians chose to stand and fight. I'd give anything to be able to witness that final stand. It would become one of the most legendary in history. They all died. Xerxes invaded Greece and conquered Athens. The commander of the Athenian fleet was notified of the defeat at Thermopylae and retreated to a nearby island. And that should have been the end of it. The Persians were in Greece. The fleet had retreated. There was nothing stopping Xerxes, except brave fleet commander Themistocles, who received word of Leonidas' defeat and feigned a retreat. His retreat to the island of Salamis was a ruse. He gathered his remaining ships. He had 400 and the Persians over 2,000, and launched one final assault. And due to strategic genius, knowledge of the Mediterranean Sea, and a disciplined army of warriors, with all odds against him and his fleet crushed Xerxes. Although the Persians had took the mainland, they were now stuck in Greece. The roles were reversed. They were now the ones that were trapped. Fearing losing his entire army, Xerxes made the decision to retreat. Was it the wisest move? He had still conquered most of Greece, but the defeat at sea and the sheer amount of losses at Thermopylae made him rethink his plans for world domination. He left a small army to keep Greece occupied while he licked his wounds and planned the next invasion. But that gave the Greeks enough time, and now with a massive morale boost they gained from both battles, another alliance was formed. A year later, a final battle would be fought, and the Greeks would win, officially ending the Persian invasion of Greece. The Battle of Plataea, which was the final battle, is an absolutely epic tale, and was another victory against all odds for the Greeks. But we'll save that one for next time. So, what do you think? Who had the more epic battle, Leonidas or Themistocles? Did Xerxes make the right decision to retreat after the loss at sea? One thing we can all agree on though, this seemingly unreal story did really happen.